All right, welcome back to another episode of BSU. Dennetra, you usually do your little intro, so I was kind of waiting on that one.
BSU, hey!
That's like our old introduction song. I was waiting for that. Well, hopefully everyone was able to see last week's episode about Ancient Mama, and we kind of want to tie it into this week's episode. So with a lot of things going on in the world today, so many things are changing. So many people have different ties to different things, and we came across a website that we wanted to share with you all. It's ados101.com, and we will have it available for you all to check out during or after this BSU episode. And ADOS stands for American Descendants of Slavery. So before we jump into the website and all of that good stuff, what do we know about the terminology American Descendants of Slavery? Or what are our thoughts on American Descendants of Slavery, or ADOS?
Mm-hmm. It sounds to me like, knowing on the website that this is kind of a phrase that is, the people pushing for it, the people who came up with it are Black people. And even though we've gone through a ton of name changes, it sounds like we're having a moment where these people and the people who follow ADOS are wanting to have a name that maybe commands more power legally, like in the census and in certain policies, so that it's not just falling into like minorities, but is specific to the needs and traumas and history of our community, not just like all brown people ever in the entire country.
Yeah, I like what you said about it being so specific. I think that is very good, just especially now in the current climate that we are in this country, being a little bit more intentional and just being specific. I always get that word like mixed up, being specific about a lot of things. I think that's really good. And I also wanted to draw more attention to what you said about a lot of the different name changes that has happened over history, let's say. So I guess what are our thoughts on that over history we see a lot of name changes when referring to Black people, African Americans, now American descendants of slavery. What are our thoughts with all of the name changes and things of that nature?
So I know I can say that originally I was like, oh, come on, not another name change. I mean, we went from niggers to Negroes to Negroid to colored to Afro-American to Black to African American, and now we're about to be number 8, American Descendants of Slavery. So immediately my first thought was, nobody else went through all these identity changes. I'm a little bit more comfortable, as Keira already said, knowing that other African Americans are the ones who are drawing up the proposal and leading a torch on this name change. As opposed to if it had been somebody else, a non-Black person. But I'm still like wondering, I mean, I get why they're doing it. They're doing it for the purpose of reparations, for the purpose of benefits, to ensure that we as a Black community get the things that are promised to us that we've never gotten. You know, every time we stand up as a community and say, hey, there are these injustices, there are these inequalities that are occurring with our air quality, with our water, with our food source, with our healthcare, employment, whatever, job market, redlining. We had enough. We want you to put policies in place to promise change. Then all of a sudden it becomes this for everybody. It becomes for all minorities and all non-white males, you know, and it stopped becoming about us, Black Americans. And then you begin to see everyone else reaping the benefits of affirmative action and civil rights and all the things that we were the ones to say, hey, we are being poorly treated and it is resulting in poor outcomes for our Black families. Please do something better in America for us. It's not us who gets the benefits. Even when you start looking at the Better Business Bureau, not the Better Business, but when they give out the money for small businesses, of all those billions of dollars, I think it was 27 billion, we only took advantage of 1%. A little less than 2%. It's like 1.3, 1.7, something like that, of all that money that was designed to help out small businesses. We didn't get any. And this is the story of our Black lives. We are constantly left out of the benefits of policies that are created to elicit change that we never get to take advantage of. And so I feel like this name change is first of all, let me just say, if I buy into this name change, it better not be another name change, because I don't think I can handle a nice name change. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. But anyway, I feel like it's a matter of us having an opportunity as Black Americans to ensure that we get the benefits of what's due to us, that was promised to us hundreds of years ago with that false narrative of 40 acres and a mule. I don't know about either one of y'all, but last time I checked, I did not get a hand-me-down mule. So I know my family didn't get it. So I think this is just us saying, hey, you never did what you said. We demand change. Do it today.
And I think I wanted to add a little bit, because you said a lot of good stuff. Going back to the name change, and I'm just sitting here thinking of all the name changes we've been through, how to classify Black Americans, African Americans, whatever name to classify us, and thinking of this new potential terminology that could classify us, American descendants of slavery. I think, and I don't know who's behind the name changes, if it's like a group of people, if it's like the American government, I don't know what it is. So I think over time, when the names are introduced, it's like, okay, it has a good running, and then it runs for a while, runs for years, decades, but then others start to get included in it. And I think with this new one, American descendants of slavery, focusing just on America, but still understanding that slavery happened in other areas like Haiti, Brazil, and just other areas. But right now we're focusing on American descendants of slavery, like you said, Dennetra, to get what is due to us. I think getting tricky with the terminology Black, and this isn't to say if you classify as Black to don't classify it, but that could get a little tricky sometimes, because there are different groups of people, there's different communities out there that have darker skinned people that could pass for Black. And that's where I think a lot of the inclusion of other people and communities start to come into play. And because I think you said before it was Afro-Americans, and understanding too that there's other groups of people where their ancestors were also Africans. So for me to hear the American descendants of slavery, I'm like, I think this group of people, they're onto something. They're being so specific at this point, where it's like, from here on out, I don't think it can get any more specific for us to receive the benefits and the paybacks, the reparations that are due unto us, and to make sure that we get it and not other people.
Everybody else.
Exactly. So I think being real intentional with that. So I'm excited to see where the conversation will go, how people will react to it, and if this is something that can not bring us reparations, but to get, the conversation, the conversation is already going, but to keep the conversation going, but keeping it specific to us. Mm-hmm. If that, I keep saying specific, but I really like how they're being really intentional about American descendants of slavery. So,
yeah. Something that I'm thinking about, and I'll be honest, I don't know what my opinion is about this, right? I'm not sure. I say Black. I grew up in a household that said African American, and obviously there's all of these other terms floating around, but I'm really not sure if on the flip side of that specificity is a shortcoming of thinking too small about ourselves, because we know that language influences our thoughts. We think in language often, and if we are Black, or even if we're African American, we're belonging to a globalized community of African diaspora populations, that we come from somewhere, and we existed before we were enslaved, right? Before that trauma. And for me, I say Black because it ties me to a global community of Blackness and reminds me that what's going on in America is not isolated, and that anti-Blackness is global, and that there is a bigger fight beyond just our country for our humanity across the planet as people, as a global community. And I worry that, I just wonder what effect it would have on my mind if I had been raised thinking what I am is a descendant of slavery. I'm an American descendant of slavery, as opposed to saying I'm a Black person, right? I have ties all the way back to the mother continent, Africa. There's power there in what language we use. And those are just, I really haven't decided, right? I think I have to do a lot more thinking about ADOS, but that's just some of my thoughts that I'm having about it.
It's funny you should mention that, Keira. I was thinking that same thing, and I really haven't decided where I've landed with it either. You know, I've really grown exhausted by this slave narrative that we have to keep associated with our identity. You know, like why can't we move away from that? Why is there always this, tying us back, reminding us where we come from, kind of a thing? Why can't it be, American descendants of royalty? Because the people that were stolen and drug over here, they came from various different walks of life. They weren't over there being hobos with knapsacks over their shoulders. There were some that were carpenters. There were some that were attorneys. There were some that were of royalty. There were some, peasantry in there as well. But there were some people who had some upstanding lives too. So for us to be okay with allowing this to be a part of our description as a community, and I'm on the fence with. But if it means I'm getting reparations, though, I might be a little bit more flexible. And I feel like that's the objective of the movement, is to ensure that we have equitable opportunities.
I totally get where the two of you are coming from with this whole being tied back to slavery. Why do we have to keep being reminded of that? I totally get that. And we should not have to continuously be reminded of the part that interrupted our history, which was slavery. What I am thinking, and like you said, is the goal of this movement is to make sure that we are receiving what is due to us. I think if the name was to change from American descendants of royalty, of kings and queens, that is a loophole for people to say, well, we're only giving reparations to those who are descendants of slavery. And because you are descendants of royalty, I feel like that's a loophole. So it's like, to some extent, you have to be so specific where it's like there's no way you can water down what I just said. You have to just take it as what I just said. But I totally agree with you, Dennetra. Why do we have to continuously be reminded of like this past that just, that we still see happening today, just in different forms? So I totally agree with that.
And I would even go so far, just even a small language thing like the word hobo, and like the idea of not having enough and not having a place to be is a direct result of social systems that deliberately create inequity. So like, we have no way of knowing for sure what social systems were at play because we weren't there. We can do archaeology, we can do history, we can do all this stuff. but we were made to specifically forget our histories and forget whatever station in life we had, high or low, or regardless of whether that was even the way society worked, right? Because like the way our society worked is, I think, is so radically different, and that was part of the trauma of being brought here against our will. And so I just wonder if it's like, I just think it's so deep. It's just such a deep conversation about what we call ourselves and what histories we want to claim.
Agreed.
Exactly.
Woo! That was all deep. And we want to hear from you.
I was just about to say that. Go ahead.
We want to hear from you all. We want you to write in. Tell us, how do you identify? And how do you feel about a name change of American Descendants of Slavery? The acronym ADOS. What are your thoughts? We want to hear about that. Which portion of that resonates with you? Which portion of that do you reject? Okay, there's that option too. So let us know, and then we look forward to seeing you next week, same time, same place, baby. And Thank you for joining us this week for BSU.
Thank you. See you next week.
Bye, y'all.